class that gives you instructions on how a project manager, project team has to monitor a project performance during the course of executing the project. So we are in the process of a traditional project management framework. In a traditional waterfall project management framework, management has responsibility over planning, initiating, planning, scheduling, proposing a project schedule timeline, which is what you did so far in your capstone, as for yesterday night. And now it's time for you as a manager to start executing the project. And during the execution of the various tasks that are scheduled in your project timeline, as a manager, you've got to measure performance and understanding whether you're doing good or doing bad, and whether your project is on time and on budget, or whether you're currently experiencing cost overrun or major project delay. That's about your questions today. Now I would like to let you learn the monitoring and control processes by using a practical case study. This is your project schedule. It's a project of implementing an IT solution in a large company. As an example, the IT solution could be an e-procurement database and software, so that the procurement department of a multinational company could be placing requests for proposals, could receive proposals by different bidders, and based on proposals could sign contracts and place orders, and then tracking materials management on the system. An e-procurement system. Usually e-procurement systems come as a standard software solutions produced by producers. An example, Ariba is the largest software producing company that provides for e-procurement system. Usually those e-procurement system comes as basic platforms that needs to be customized. Usually those software platforms are complex. You need a physical hardware architecture under the form of virtual machines, and then the software must be customized as per connecting the procurement system to an ERP system of the company. So we are into a very complex IT project. And here is what happens. Schedule for a project is to, I'm sorry, I forgot to change the, well, let's consider as it is. We are now in April. We are now in April. Sorry, we're in November right now. I'm not that crazy, but let's put yourself in April, and we're scheduling the project. Project is going to have there are some predecessors activities we're involved in, and after doing the predecessors, we start from May 1st, which is very close. So we are starting May 1st in a few days, and starting from May 1st, there's 2 overlapping tasks, as long as 6 months each, from May to October. Both tasks have scheduled same duration, 6 months, and equal cost. And as a scheduler, as project scheduler, what you have is same cost for both tasks. One is about customizing the software, and the other one is about implementing the technical infrastructure. Usually technical infrastructure is implemented, is deployed by systemists, those that do the system architecture, while the software customization is done by developers. Those people are very expert in coding, doing Python, Java, and all those stuff, and programming, right? Good. So it's 2 tasks overlap, as long as 6 months. This is the BCWS. What is BCWS? What does BCWS stands for? Don't go ahead into the course materials. The course materials will come after this class, and then you can study. But first, you use just your own competences and knowledge you have, because I know you are experienced and expert. So BCWS stands for?
Business cost.
It's an acronym,
Build
right?
cost, work structure.
My Tashkent students, BCWS, do you remember about
Cost, work
BCWS?
structure. I think so.
So you know what BCWS could be? No? You don't remember? Right. Do you have ideas on what BC could be? So I was just telling this is, you see it's dollars amount, so probably this is about cost. But cost what? B cost. Budgeted cost. Budget cost. So it's the cost that you have budgeted in the cost breakdown structure before you start a project. So it's the budgeted cost. And what's WS? Word scheduled. BCWS is the word scheduled. I guess this file is posted on the course website, right? In case you don't have access to the course website, feel free to take a picture of the BCWS because you need it. So take a snapshot. Take a picture, please. I know you're using your cell phones for Facebooking and doing else. So feel free to use your cell phone to take a picture to the BCWS. BCWS. The budgeted cost of the work schedule, is it cumulative or not? Is it cumulative? No, it is not. So, as management engineering, as engineering management students, masters, or close to be masters now. When you look at those data, it comes very clear to everyone that this is non-cumulative data. So if you would like to understand how much cost accumulates over time, you need to do the rollout. So you need to accumulate it. So end of May, it's 120 each task. But end of June, it's going to be 312,000. And so forth. So far, so good? Great. Now, that was the situation at May 1st, planned. This is also called planned value. BCWS is the planned value. It is what we have planned of the value to be incurred over time. Now, it's time to be end of September. Now we're at the end of September. And there's a project manager, you receive a call. You receive a call from one of your clients that says that they are very worried about the fact the project is going to be late. And they are very frustrated and worried and disappointed with that. And as a project manager, you didn't realize. And actually, you don't think the project is late. And so you start discussion with your client. So the question is that now we are end of September, and what you get at the end of September is this. End of September? Yeah. At the end of September, your accounting department, the accounting department of your company, you're the consultant, right? So you're those people, the team of systemists and software developers that are implementing the software tool at the headquarters of a large multinational company. So the client is a large multinational company, CEO, not really happy about that. And you say, okay, what's going on with my people there? We're making troubles, maybe or not. Now, you go to the accounting department and you look for data up to today's date, which is end of September, September the 30th. Those are data coming from your accounting department. It looks like you have spent money on doing the project. And the ACWP is as follows. Please take a picture. This is the ACWP. What does ACWP stand for? The actual cost. It's no more the budgeted cost, but it's actual cost. WP, the work. No, it's no more the work plan. The work plan was the work scheduled. Now it's the WP. Don't get confused because acronyms are really tricky. But WP is the work that has been performed or progressed, right? WP. So you were comparing. I go back one slide. In May, we add the budgeted cost of the work scheduled, and now it's time to get the actual situation at the end of September, and the actual cost of work performed now, end of September, is this one, which is different. So, you're the project manager. What do you think? Is the project going bad? Are we experiencing a delay? What's the current situation here? I go back, BCWS, sorry. BCWS is this one. ACWP is this one. What would you do? Well, first you need to make some math. You need to sum them up. So if you have an Excel file, a spreadsheet, or a calculator, or a cell phone, please accumulate. Otherwise, you can't make comparisons, right? So it's budget value versus actual value. I'm asking about whether you know if we're spending more or less. Are we overrunning costs? Are we experiencing a delay? Are you able to answer this question? I'm not asking about how much we're spending more or less and how much we're experiencing a delay, or whether we are lagging behind schedule or ahead of schedule. I'm just asking, do you have all pieces of information available for you to make decisions and understanding? Why not? No. So there's someone saying no. Who is saying no? Be brave. One brave. Why no? We don't have the resources. What do you mean? Okay, we don't have the resources that we have actually used in the project. But in fact, yes, because this cost of data is just human resource data. So behind those costs is time spent, person hours spent, times the unit cost per hour, the standard rate. Think about Microsoft project, you'll enter the work hours, then in the resource sheet you have systemist, 50 euros an hour, then you add a developer or a programmer, 40 euros an hour, you multiply and you get those data. So this is just accumulation of person hours times the standard rate. So in fact we know how many hours we have spent compared to the amount of hours we have planned to spend. So in principle, this information is available. About the productivity. What do you mean about the productivity? Right. I could have spent this money, a huge amount of money, but I just paid people to do nothing. And there was no progress. You get a point? I have taken the timesheets at the end of each month with all people provided for how many hours were spent on this project here. But in fact, time was spent in solving issues, solving problems, and nothing was delivered and released to client. There was no completion at all, or just a portion of completion. And in fact, look at what happens here. BCWS is the budgeted cost of the work scheduled, and this is the actual cost of the work performed. But don't you think that work performed may be different than work scheduled? For instance, we could have planned a work scheduled as much as 80% by the end of September, and And what we did was just 50%, so that maybe we're lagging behind schedule. So I'll give you an extra piece of information that you need for your calculations and assessment, which is a third picture. So there was BCWS, then there is ACWP, and now a last one. BCWP, which stands for, now you know it, it's the budgeted cost of what? Of the work that has been performed. You understand the meaning of this acronym in your mind? What's the notion? What's behind the idea? What is the idea of the BCWP? It's the budgeted cost of what we have actually done, which means that it compares what we did, but by considering the unit cost scheduled or budgeted. It could happen that programmers and systemists are more or less expensive than what was expected at the budget phase. Programmers were budgeted at 40 euros an hour, but in fact there was a major contract revision so that now our employees should be paid 42 euros an hour instead of 40. So we spend more. And also the work progressed, the work done, could be less or more than the work scheduled. So now with those three figures on hand, which are the BCWS, ACWP, and BCWP, I think you have all you need to understand whether the project is overrunning or underrunning budget, and whether the project is lagging behind schedule or faster and ahead of schedule. In other terms, could you please provide for an understanding of the cost and schedule performance of your project? Based on a capstone, you have experienced so much of the SPI and the cost PI and the cost performance, and so you may be using some of your previous knowledge. Think about it. So, did you take pictures about those three charts? I would like you to take 5 minutes working together with some of your peers in small teams. I don't care, 2, 3 people, 4, but please no free riding. So just pair, get together in 2, take 5 minutes, and please tell me, if you were the project manager, are you worried or not? Are you disappointed? Are you worried that the project is not finishing on time? And how much are you spending? More or less than budget? Take your time, 5 minutes, make your calculations. Would you like me to scroll again all 3 data sets? Okay, so let's go back. First data set. BCWS, take a
This is
picture.
for SPI.
BCWS, yes.
I don't think so. Yeah. We spend more in June, in August.
Okay, one of your colleagues here, one of your classmates, is asking, I didn't understand the notion of BCWP.
Oh yes, because this is the actual one that we paid, right? Yeah. And you see, we're paying much more for less work than we should be already done. Like in June, we're paying 192. We're paying but they did equivalent to 170.
Which is the value out of the original budget.
We need to compare
that has been turned
actual
into
cost of work plan,
the actual cost
performed,
the
actual cost of work
cost,
performed this,
the actual cost of the work
with this, the
performed
budgeted cost of
is
work
the
performed.
actual money spent
Whether
for doing what you did.
we are going under our
But the
productivity,
budgeted cost of the work
we are
performed
under.
Yeah,
is the
because this one
budget
is
money
based on the original budget.
of what
This
you
is
did.
literally how much work was done
Allow me 30 seconds.
and the value of the work that was actually done, right? So the value of the task of June was 170,000 done. It should be 190, and we are actually paying 215. So we're paying 215 for something that should be worth 170. Right? So low
Allow me a few
productivity.
seconds, please. This is the budget value. So this is what we have scheduled to spend over time. This is what we have actually incurred. And now what we did was just playing crosswording. Have you ever played crossword? So we take the amount of work done, but we don't multiply the amount of work done times the actual cost incurred. But we multiply the actual work done times the cost of we should have spent if there was no cost to change. All right? So for instance, and this is what I would like you to explore, for instance, there could be, the work schedule so far could have been a 50, that's right here. I could have had a 50 euros per hour times 100. But it happens that cost has increased at 52 euros per hour, and we only did 80. When you do the budgeted cost of the work performed, you get what you did, and you multiply it times the budget value without considering possible cost increase in the unit cost of all equipment, human resource, and materials used. Does it make more sense now? With those ideas, but the best way to understand the notion of the earned value is to try to figure out whether our project is performing well or not. So back to data,
80.
BCWS,
180.
Yes.
BCWS, take a picture if you need.
I think it's 80% performed compared to
BCW,
Makes sense, I
ACWP,
guess.
take a picture if you need.
Let's do one example from here.
BCWP, take a picture if needed. 5 minutes of your time. I want you to just use your basic knowledge, well, not basic, so smart knowledge you have. Knowledge on in and go. Excellent. An Excel file will help a lot. At least in this
August.
context.
Let's take 1 month of August and do the example.
Is that clear now?
What is the BCW? BCW of August is
192.
So you can answer now. Are we spending more or less?
And
Are we going faster or slower?
ACWP is 216.
216.
190. The thing is, I think this
BCWP is how much?
190. The thing is, I think that the percentage in the end is 192 over 190 to figure out the percentage.
Yeah, degrees.
So it would be
The progress. Right, that's just the assumption that we made. Assumption. Use those data now to better understand.
Are we right?
192 190 to
No, it's the other way around.
actual.
There you go, 98% from 95.
Wait a minute, 190 divided by.
The hard one is how we going faster. So are we likely to finish this earlier or later? And that's because you're smaller. You know the value we have earned is the same, which is the work done if we would have spent.
It's very low. 0.02. Stupid, right?
This is earned value, this is actual value, this is project value. So don't need some indicators.
No.
Proportions.
No, this one is, we're not that bad. We're bad, but we're not that bad.
Think about it. There are some performance factors such as
How much?
speed or
The thing is,
Actual is increasing by this factor.
the thing is, we are paying this price for 98% of the work.
all right, good. So someone is looking for some performance indicators. You know what key performance indicators are? So please define a performance indicator. What performance indicators?
So this is the budget
There are some
and perform and schedule, okay?
Yeah.
So we are 2% lagging.
Yes.
And we multiply this with the actual one to find the overhead that we need to pay and add it to the actual one.
I don't know about the overhead thing, but I understand this part quite well.
Alright,
But-
so what you did, how you found the 190?
I did exactly that. 190 over 192. 190 is this one.
Oh, that's right.
So the thing is, this is the what was actually performed. This is how much we should be paying for 100%. But so this one over this one will give us like the percentage that was done.
The percentage we are lagging behind.
We're lagging behind. But this one is how much we actually paid for it.
Yes, so we need to multiply this with the actual one to find the overhead. Like,
I don't know, try. You can use it. I allow you to.
calm down.
You sure? Double check. All right. No, you're right. You're right, but you're wrong. You're right, but you're wrong. Why you're right? You're right in the methodology, but you're wrong in the final result. Because you are misconsidering something. Think about it. Jose, this slide is beautiful. It's a suggestion. Look at it.
I need my coffee. I didn't have it today.
I couldn't go to the restroom.
I think I'll go. Is it recording?
I just would like to measure your smartness here.
Yes. Go.
Look at the whiteboard. Look at the whiteboard.
You're correct, man.
There is a Gantt chart of the project that is going to
Fuck
be
you.
displayed.
I don't trust you.
Don't forget.
He liked it.
Yeah, he did.
I just say here, so many all right. So, solution. Oh, you're looking at well, I told you don't look ahead to the first material. No, but think about just use your brainstorming together here. Did you get a clue? So you have a clue? Not yet? Allow me to understand, what are you doing? What is your methodology? We are comparing those so you're looking to there. This is strictly to look at the full part. To make it track. It depends on what you look at. They're not one after others. One pieces, so they're not serious. You look at what happens exactly in the tasks. Need more time? Need more time? Are you okay? So I've got a question for you. Okay, let's go back to plenary session. Because I can see that most of the small teams could come with some solution here. So I've got a question for you. Is, are we spending more or less?
More.
Is the project spent? I'm not asking how much. So far, I'm just asking a basic question. Client is calling. I'm your client. Are we spending more or less?
More.
We're spending less. So we're making savings. Are we making savings? Are we saving budget or not? So those that say that we're saving, how do you know we are saving cost of the project? You do what? Come on, solutions. So, are we spending more or less? I don't know, frankly, I don't know. I'm just concerned because someone told me that maybe the project is experiencing issues and problems and probably we can't finish on time and probably we're spending more, but I don't know, so I'm just asking. More or less. Yeah, please.
I think we're spending more.
We're spending more. Those that think that we're spending more, raise your hands. But those that think that we're spending less, raise your hands. We are 50-50. Well, we are 10% saying that we spend more, 10% saying that we spend less, and remaining 80% they don't know. Very bad managers. I know I should remember of your name because last time you... Fate. How did you calculate that you think that we spend more? What is your methodology? What did you build as methodology? Don't ask your classmates just behind you because they have tricked us. They have gone through the course materials to explore how to do that. So what is your proposal?
Is actually more than the end value, which is the discount.
So the actual cost of the work performed is actually more than the earned value. So if I understand what you do is, let's compare the earned value, which is defined as the BCWP, earned value. It's coming. Let's define earned value. Right. And to the actual cost of the work performed. This could also be done by deducting. So I could also write BCWP minus ACWP. Did you make calculations? So the total BCWP at the end of September is, how much is it? How much is it, end of September? I guess it's, the BCWP is 838 for all tasks. No, this is just for the technical infrastructure 838. What about the other tasks? So in total is 1,000. The BCWP? So I meant this one, right? Total of all those figures here is 1,700,800. Come on. So 120 plus 170 plus 173 plus 190 plus 185. The total is plus all remaining the software. So we cumulate all of this. We are end of September and it's 1,843,000. 1,843 and 25 and 250. Over the actual cost of work performed so far at the end of September. It's 1 million. This is point, this is point. Oh, which equals 1.1.0479, so I just write 0.48. So Faith, I think you're wrong.
I made a calculation only for the technical construction.
I didn't get your.
I only consider the technical infrastructure.
Oh, you just worked on technical infrastructure. Oh wow, so okay. But the full project cost, if you consider both tasks, it's making savings. We're saving money. Why are we saving money? Why it's because 1.04 we're saving 4.8% on our budget. Am I okay with saying, are you okay if I say that we're saving approximately 5% of our money? Why can I say that? Why are we saving 4.8%? Because it's 1.04 is the point. So it's likely that we are saving, it's the same as writing 104.8%. So I'm saving 4%, 4.8%, approximately 5% on budget. Yeah.
Shouldn't be the other way around?
well, listen, we should have spent 1 million and eight, and we ended up for the same amount of work, the cost incurred actually is less than we budgeted. Wow, bingo! It's savings. And it's 4.8% savings. Is that clear enough? But we're comparing same amount of work performed. That's why we need the earned value. Because otherwise, if you compare actual work of the cost actually incurred, but you compare with the budget, you would have had work performed and work scheduled, which is different. And you couldn't have been able to compare. This is in person value. This is called the cost performance index, CPI. And now you get familiar with the CPI, cost performance index, or simply cost index, CI. CPI or CI depends on the literature. The Project Management Institute calls that a cost performance index. Other manuals, other booklet would call this the cost index. But I can give you dollars amounts, because in dollars amounts this becomes 1,843,025 and 25 less 1,700,000 blah blah blah, which equals 883. And no, couldn't be that because it's 1,843,250 minus 1,759,000. So it's 84,250, right? 84,250. Dollars amounts, K dollars, thousands dollars. This is called the cost variance. Cost of variance is in dollars amounts. Cost performance index is the ratio, dimensionless, so in percent amounts. So, and in fact, can you testify that 4.8% equals $84,250? Because 84,000 is 4.8% of total budget. And it's our savings. And how do you know we're saving money? I know we're saving 4.8% because the cost performance index is greater than 1. Our target is to make the project as equal to 1 in performance. But we're outperforming. We're performing much better than expected. Right? So the target is, we are living in a very predictive, traditional water management, project management framework. In this traditional approach, we do make predictions, which is our schedule or budget. And the budget cost of the work schedule is the prediction. And we just want to make sure that the project will exactly align and perform as scheduled. But now it looks like we're doing better. We're saving. So Faith, we are saving. But Faith was interested enough in the problem as to detect that the technical infrastructure, in fact, is spending more. So if the technical infrastructure is spending more, the software customization is spending less. But in total, we still make savings. So probably we make huge savings in the software. Would you like to do analysis of both tasks? Did you do that? So probably we'll lose a little bit. We are experiencing cost overrun in the technical infrastructure, but the software customization is running with a huge savings. So the technical guy doing the systemists are very bad people because we need to work more. And the software guys are good, doing good, saving our money. And when it comes to time, what did you do when it comes to time? So the second question, the first question was, are we spending more or less? And the answer was, we're spending less.
Wrong.
And how much are we spending less? We're saving $84,250 dollars. Worth 4.8% of the budget, the cost. And now second set of questions. The question set is, are we ahead of time or are we lagging behind schedule? Fate. Or Eduardo.
The same reasoning we have done for this. You just find the ratio and compare the budget, work performed, and the work performed and the budget cost work schedule.
Thank you. I call this the schedule performance index. It's no more the cost performance index, schedule performance index, which is comparing, Eduardo, the BCWP. Can I put this on top? At the numerator. And what would you place at the denominator?
The one on schedule.
The one that we're missing, which is the budget cost of the work schedule.
No, you were correct. It's the SPI.
It compares. That's
Because it's the other way
interesting.
Yeah, we were correct.
Key
But
performance
the thing is,
indicator.
we only analyzed
Because it
Yeah, we
compares
didn't find the other one.
The other
CPI.
one.
work progress, work done, versus work that was scheduled
No. You don't.
for the same amount of
We
unit
only did
cost.
for one task. If you sum
So
all
it's, I
tasks,
can't
we're
compare,
actually
mathematician
making
would
more.
say
We're
it's
saving more.
apples
We're
and
spending
apples,
more
and you
money.
can
We
compare
only
apples.
analyzed
You
one.
remember basic mathematics?
That was the purpose.
Course. So you're not comparing apples and bananas, but you're comparing apples with apples, so you can make comparison. Right, so, and how much is it, Eduardo? Faith, how much is it? For both tasks together for the project, please. Not just for the technical infrastructure, for the project. How much?
This WS is 189.
1 point? Oh, sorry, it's 189.
It's a ratio. I did a
Oh, okay. You did, so you didn't do the ratio, but you did what is called the schedule variance in dollars amount, which equals the budgeted cost of the work performed, which is the earned value, minus the schedule value, and it's this I have is 1,843.25 less BCWS. How much is BCWS? Be careful, BCWS including October or no? No, right, because we're measuring, we are taking a picture at end of September, not October. Thank you. So how much is it? 1,843.25 less Faith? No, or anyone else? The schedule. The schedule, it's easy to make computation of schedule because it's 240, it's 120 plus 4 times 192, all double. So it's about the 400, 800, well, how much? 1776. Thank you. And this equals 24, 24, 24, 69. 69 point, if I'm right, it's $69,250. Am I right? 1776 or 6. It was 1,760,000.
This number is loaded, but
Oh, this is 67. 43 plus 4, 67. Why 69? Yes. Thank you, sorry. 67,250. Oh, is it? Yes. Okay, so schedule variance as worth equals $67,250. All right, dear client, we are late. $67,000 late. And the client will say, okay, let's fire this project manager, let's fire this consultant company, because usually time is measured in minutes, hours, days, months. It's not measured in dollars. So are people here? People are measuring a delay. Are we late or not? In fact, not, because we're saving money on time. Whoa. So in fact, I can answer a question. I know we are ahead of time. We're saving time. I don't know how much. I know that the time we're saving has a money value of $67,250. Make sense? I know we are saving because it's positive. Because 67,000 is positive. Cost was positive, which means saving. Here we make savings positive. It's greater than 1. And also the time value, or the money value of time is positive. And in fact here is 1,843,25 over 1,776, which is equal 1.03 something? 1.03? Thank you. 37838. Which means that we are saving 3.0, but we're saving 3.8% time. Wow, much better. And the 3.8% time value in dollars amount is $67,150. But what I'm interested in is that we are saving 3.8% time. Now, Rob, the project is late. It's not safe. So, based on our calculation, please say your name. Ismail. Okay, so we have to calculate this. You get a point? Why the project is not, well, it looks like that if you're really, really distracted as a project manager, and you look at the big picture, you just look at your project, at the summary task, at the project level, like a work package, and you don't go into the details of each task. It looks like the project is saving time, and it looks like you could make it in a shorter deadline, 3.8% less time. But in fact, not, because both Ismail and Faith could understand that you need to look into the Gantt chart. Because maybe one task is going longer and another one is making savings. So in total, it looks like that. But time is not like cost. Cost accumulates, but time does not. Why? It's because the Gantt chart here is what? Go again. Go to the Gantt chart again. Time saved on one task could be not saved in another task, and the tasks are in parallel. So that if one task goes longer, it's not just because one task is saving time that it can accumulate. So let's go in understanding the technical infrastructure and software and customization. Which one is, so one by one we go to each task. Both tasks are critical on a plan. But now, end of September, which one is the task that is getting longer and which one is the task that is getting shorter? So I do recompute for the schedule index for both tasks. And the schedule performance index for the technical infrastructure and the schedule performance index for the software customization. They're both defined as the budgeted cost of the work performed over the budgeted cost of the work scheduled, but for the technical infrastructure only. For the software customization only. How much is it? Faith. You have computed for the technical infrastructure one. How much is the, well, schedule performance index, the ratio or the variance? Yes, please.
I don't understand why in this case the planned downside and the performance of the actual.
Oh, it's by definition. The definition of schedule index in the literature and the pin block is defined as earned value, which is our reference baseline, and we compare the denominator, actual or budget, just to get the cost performance or the schedule performance. But feel free to, well, I would not recommend you use the inverse formula, because this goes against the standard Project Management Institute global standard, but some companies, they do that. I've experienced working for some multinational companies, they did do it vice versa, in the inverse. But you know, this definition is nice because whatever is greater than 1 is outperforming, is performing better, and whatever is less than 1 is very bad. It's just an idea of, if we're doing more than 1, we're going faster. If we go lower, so it's the idea of a target. The target is performing 100%. As a student, you set your 100% performance. If your grades are better, you will outperform and you can perform 105%, which makes saving time and getting better grades and saving money. If you're lower, so it's just because of your reference line. So the budget and cost of the work performed, defined as the earned value, becomes a reference against which you would measure budget or actual. So technical infrastructure, is it greater or less than 1? Less, is it technical infrastructure, is it late or not? Yes. And how much is it? 0 point? 94. And the software? Listen, I don't care. It's probably earlier. 0.8 to 0.7. No, 1 point something. 1 point something, right? 1.2, 1.3. How much? 1.13. Now, you get that this is 13% ahead of time. This is 6% late. Of course, if that was not time but money, this is more savings than overrun. But in fact, we are in 2 tasks that come parallel. This finishes 13% earlier, but this one goes late 6%. And the total project goes 6% late. Make sense? Because they are parallel. Unless you get the programmers, which finish earlier, and you ask them to help the systemists. But if you are a good programmer and you can code in Python, are you also very good in doing all the system architectures? No. So you are not an interchangeable type of resource. So we get the project late. No way. So far, so good. So the project is experiencing 6% of a delay, which in time value means 6% of what? May, June, July, August, September. 6% of 5 months. How much is in days? So 6% of 5 months? Work days or calendar days? Elapsed or work? Calendar. So E days. 9, because it's 0.6 times 12.
Speak. I need to get out a little bit.
It's 5 months. 5 months times on average 30 calendar days each times 0.06. Just 150.06. Okay? Make sense? So far, this is the accumulated accrued line on the task. Yes, please. Yeah, you can use work days, but you know that elapsed days and work days can be converted. That's the same. Just use always the same amount. Don't misconfuse, but whenever you go with elapsed days, E days, it just goes elapsed days, or you go with work days. And there's a formula in Microsoft Project that converts E days into work days, just because not all months are all 30 days long. And not all months are 22 work days, and not all are 30. Yeah. All right. So the lesson learned here is that when it comes to cost, you may not care about what is earned and what is lost in each task, because dollars are dollars, and you just consider at the top level of the project. But when it comes to time, you need to understand and look into the narrow schedule and understand the sequence of an array. Because critical tasks only impact. May I plot everything on the graph? I would like to, in reporting, in corporate reporting, in project management reporting, it's nice to make visualization of your project performance. So let's visualize project performance in a scheduled performance index versus cost performance index graph. Where are we? So do you have any questions? Sorry. I see there's discussion around. Do you get to ask anything? Would you like to ask anything? All right. There is discussion around in the class. So would you please plot cost index, schedule index versus cost index graph? Our current actual situation at the end of September. We are, if I understand well, cost index is 1.05 approximately. So we are here in the cost index, but schedule index of the critical task is 0.94. So we are 0.94, 1.05. We are approximately here. We're approximately here. Most of the software tools doing earned value analysis and computing cost index and schedule index would also provide for a visualization, a view that you can visualize cost index and schedule index over time on a graph. So there are possible 4 situations. Are we in a night? Do you like the situation that we are in now? Here we are doing what? Whatever it's, we are late, right? Whatever is here, we are late. And whatever is here, we are out of time. And for cost, here we are overrunning. And here is savings. So we are in an opposite situation that we're making cost savings, but we're late. If you're here as a project manager, what would you do? Well, you would love to Make a control action. You know what a control action is? You're steering the project back to original performance. So you would like to control back your project to expected performance. How do you do that? How do you drive your project back to original performance? You can do what? We're saving money, but we're late. You can do what? Come on, the systemists. Please work over weekends. Please work overnight. I will pay you more, but you can finish on time. So we are going to crash the project by adding. How can you crash the project? Either you add more people, or you ask people to work overtime, overnight, double shift, or you pay more experienced people. So just go away, you're very inexperienced. I just get those guys that work much faster, but they are more expensive. So they're senior instead of junior, right? So what I would do is that I can crash. That's the control action I can make. So that at a later time, so that in a later stage, my project could be converted back to original expectations. Now, assume you were here. What would you do? If you were here, what would, yeah. So in this case, yes, of course. If you're in a crashing position, you should always think of whether it is efficient from a cost perspective, from a cost standpoint, to whether incurring in crashing or not. Yeah, of course. And that's why you're doing a capstone project, to understand all those trade-offs implications. But now assume you were in the right lower bottom part of the diagram. What happens? Schedule index is greater than 1, cost index lower than 1. So we are ahead of time, so we're running fast, but spending money. So it's as if we spend too much money to go too fast. So you can do what? Guys, slow down. You may slow down and you say, okay, don't work at night because I am not paying you any longer for working at night. Slow down so that we can save money but taking longer time. This is called slowing down, in fact. Be careful, slowing down is less effective than crashing. In the sense that in practical terms in real life, you can always spend money to crash. But the fact that reducing expenditure will bring to time could be not that effective. And what about if you were here? So I place a star. If you're the star here, what would you do? So it looks that we're late and we're spending more. So if you don't do anything, I do something. I fire you out. And I replace with someone else. So if you will find yourself in that position, don't tell anyone that your project is doing very bad. Just tell everyone that you would like to change the company, you would like to go into new experiences in your professional life, so that you don't get fired when you fire yourself before you get fired. Anyway, I'm just joking. Well, in addition to get fired or go away, what would you do? Assume that no one is firing you, but still you need to do something. What could you do? The project is late, we're spending more. Guys, there's no way of correcting deviations, except for we can do something. Either we reduce the scope of work. All right, the remaining tasks, we're not doing anything about the final activities. This will be taken out of scope of work, but the final product will be not finished. Imagine a vehicle that goes out of the factory without the wheels. Could be done. So you pay, dear client, you pay your wheels your own, but we are not providing any wheels because we're out of budget. Or we ask our boss, so we start with a change process. a change request, so that we scale up to management to ask for a revised budget and the revised duration. So we are looking for securing permits for a revised greater budget and a time extension so that we can complete the project. And my question is, how much time extension would you like to have now? And how much budget revised would you ask to your boss? The point is, in fact, we're not here. So this is called revised. By the way, sorry, I didn't ask you about what happens here. If you're here, what happens? It can't be. It's so rare that maybe you did some errors in the calculations. If by chance you will find yourself in that position in the final written exam of this class, recheck, double check all of your calculations. You did some mistakes somewhere. Because usually, but in real life, if you find yourself in that position, you were probably 100 years ago in the history. Because no project, real rare situation that original budgets were large and durations, time to markets were long. Usually we'll live in very, very pressing times with very short time to markets and reduced budgets so that our clients or our bosses want just to save money and do it very fast. So no way to really make it happen, please.
Sorry, in the previous formula about CPE, we have BCWP.
Over, yeah.
It's not the opposite.
No, this is what we were discussing. I was just saying that the literature standard, the global standard by the Project Management Institute, requires to calculate BCWP over BCWS. So it always compares, the baseline comparison is the earned value. It's what you should have spent for doing what you did, the earned value. And then you compare to the BCWS. In a way that greater than 1 means savings, lower than 1 means losing. If it is lower than 1, I'm doing lower performance than expected. If I perform 95%, I'm a bad guy, because I'm not performing 100%. It's like running the 100 meters, and the target is doing it in 10 seconds. And if you do it in 11 seconds, you're late. And you're doing 95% of world record. Make sense? You are performing 5% worse than who's the record keeper of the 100 meters? Bolt. Mr. Bolt, right? James Bolt. Who's it? Who's it? All right, makes sense? So now the question is, we are here, and my question for you is, and final question for me is, we are late and saving money. If no one does anything, if you do nothing, what would happen? How long is going to be the project, and how much will be the final cost at completion? So my question is, can you please estimate final cost and time at completion? Please, think about it. You know the original duration was 6 months, right? From May to October included. We are end of September. We are 5 months out of 6 total expected original duration. And we have spent, how much did we spend? So far, the money spent is 1,749,000 out of original budget. But the total budget is not 1,776. It's more than that. Because there's the future October period that has to be taken into account. And if I remember, it's 120 plus 120 is 240 more. So the total original budget, so let's restate. Budget was in budget at completion. The budget at completion, which is also called BAC, is 1 million. It's 1,900,000. Can you compute the total budget? 1,900,000 and 900 and here the total. 1,900,000. 190. Sorry. HDMI goes. That's 720 plus 792 times 4 plus 60 times 2. 1896. Original scheduled duration budget duration 6 months. Now, end of September, we are experiencing cost performance index worth 1.048, schedule performance index of the critical task, 0.94. You guys and girls, give me idea of if no one does anything, what happens to completion? How long will be the project? How much cost we're going to spend in total at the end? Those are called cost and time estimate at completion. We call that CACs, the cost estimate at completion and a time estimate at completion. There you go. Take a few minutes. You compute, you calculate, and you tell me. You don't have an increase in hours. The same amount of hours. Back to notion of purpose. So, do you have an understanding of how long will be the project? Yes? No? No? How would you do that? Your name is? Jadon, no idea? I don't want figures. I just want you to think about the reasoning behind. What would you do? So now you have the full the full duration, the full budget, and you know what happens when we are 5 months out of 6. How long are you going to, is it going to take? What do you do? Why don't you use linear projections? You need to be a clairvoyant and do some predictions. Why don't you predict using linear mathematics? Are you using that? Are you doing this? Maybe so again, sorry, your name is Chiara. So Chiara, she's suggesting to use the ratio between 6 months and the SPI. Why? Because the SPI, with your own voice, I don't want to repeat.
The SPI is the ratio between the budget and the actual value. So
Yeah, and better than that, SPI is the ratio between the work performed and the work scheduled. So it's an expression of how efficient we are in delivering the project, how fast. So if we experience 94% performance in the past, what happens in the future? So you think we will go at the same pace, same speed? Maybe not, right? So now we need to make it up, please.
I would divide 6 months by 0.94.
Which is exactly what Chiara was suggesting. So you will divide 6 months by 0.94. And I say, well, yeah, good idea. But you're not very optimistic. You think that past performance in the past will replicate, will be a good predictor of future performance, which is this is called a revised approach. It's a good approach. It's a revise, so we revise our deadline in a revised approach, which is conservative. What we did in the past is going to be applied to future. So past performance is predictor of future performance, linearly, straight linear. It's called revised the schedule, revised deadline. So the time estimate at completion in a revised approach is the original duration, the budgeted duration, over the scheduled performance index of the critical path. Only. Critical path at the time of the monitoring activity. Be careful. I just opened a warning sign for you. The critical path changes every day. It depends. So at every point of control, the critical path may change. So you don't need to set up your critical path at the start date, which is your original critical path, and you don't look into that later on. I've seen that so many times. Experienced people using Microsoft Project or Primavera Project Planner, they plan the project, they have their red color tasks, they make a filter, and they do calculate the schedule index every month by using the original critical path. Boom, and then the problem. Imagine there are thousands of tasks in a huge, large project. They don't look into what happens really. Because now it's the software customization that becomes critical, but it could have, the technical infrastructure, but maybe next year or next month it will be different. Okay, So by the way, here it would be 6 months over 0.94, which equals 6.38. And 38 is 6 months. And 0.38 months is about a couple of weeks. 22 work days times 0.38 is about 0.4 times 22, it's about 40. Yeah, it's less, it's 12 days. It's 10 days, 10 days. 10 days. So it's plus 2 weeks. Approximately, plus approximately 2 weeks. All right? Which is the new time extension that I should ask, 2 longer weeks to my client. So client that was disappointed and worried about duration of a project was right. She called me and she said, "You are late," and I didn't realize that the technical infrastructure test was late. And what about, but, listen. This is the revised approach so that past performance is a good indicator of future performance. It looks like if you were a bad student in the past, you're gonna keep on being a bad student in the future. But if you would like to be a little bit optimistic, you can use an original approach and say, oh, listen, the past performance is the past performance, but starting from now on, I'll be better. And I would have the same performance as was scheduled. It's a little bit optimistic, it's called original approach, but sometimes it can help in negotiating with your boss. And say, all right, now listen, you're right, it's not 6.5. So if you're using an original approach, how much is going to be your duration of the project? It's the time spent so far, plus the delay got so far, plus the original duration remaining. You got a point? So it's 5 months spent so far. How much time was spent so far in addition to that? 5 over 0.94 plus 1 remaining month, which is a bit less than 6.38. It's 6.20 something. Make sense? You got an idea? Right. Can you calculate? So it's 6 points. Instead of 6.38, it goes to 6.21. 21. So we save 1 week more or less. Well, half a week.
What? I lost.
With the same idea, how much would you compute for the cost estimated completion?
Sorry?
Yeah.
Why do we do like 5 plus 5 divided by 0.94?
Okay. We are end of September,
Yeah.
which is the past time.
I'll add you in the drive.
May, June, July, August, September.
It's in my
This is
drive
the
I
time we have
have today.
spent.
Could you please do it?
You can't have a time machine and go back. We would love to, but
How
we
hard
can't.
is quality?
It's 5 months span.
How hard is
But
quality?
in 5 months, we didn't do everything.
Put me in
We're lagging
perspective
behind
with
schedule.
the
And we are late by
Alright.
24. So we only did
3
24.
exercises, just learn the way how to solve
When
them.
we did like the 5 divided by
I don't know the basic
0.94,
concept
we
behind
are
them,
just
but I can
considering
solve all
the
that
5 months plus the
exercises.
delay.
Oh, yeah.
So the first 5 is
Okay.
Sorry.
But
I was just doing this.
like,
But instead of projecting 0.95
No,
to
no.
remaining
I
time,
didn't
just
hardware.
apply the original.
yeah.
It's
Sorry.
harder compared to the filler.
Sorry. Thank you.
It's like industrial.
So it goes to 6.21
oh fuck.
approximately.
Why?
Would you please do the same with the cost estimate
It's the same as
completion?
industrial. Yeah.
Let me just write it here.
I'm starting to study
So if
quality.
we use the same data,
I'll send you just solve yourself.
same data used for the cost estimate at completion, and we go with the original or the revised approach, what would you do?
When you were upset, you asked me about some stuff and I was like sleeping.
Original? How much is the original estimated completion?
Like, I don't know.
Original estimate at completion. Let's start with revise. Revise, it's easy, right? Because we get the full original budget and we divide this by. So if I just write that I have $1,196,000 over 1.048, I get a cost estimate which is 1,000,000. 1,700,000, blah, blah, blah. You do have a calculator. 809, thank you. So we make $90,000 savings, which is consistent with the cost variance. Original cost variance was cost variance, the one that Faith calculated at the beginning of this class. Faith calculated a cost variance worth 84,000 approximately. And 90,000 is the remaining cost variance, remaining savings that we are keeping on making if the project goes on the same way. Right? Linear. 90. 80, 87, right? So 9 plus 96, yes, it's 87,000. But with the original approach, you do what? The actual cost we have incurred so far, because we can't go back. And how much is it? So it's the actual cost of work performed so far, plus October, plus the budgeted cost for October, plus what?
What is CAC?
No, there's no penalty.
Cost estimates
So far.
at completion.
If we write the original actual cost of work performed plus October value of the budget, is that enough? What is the problem?
The unitary cost has changed.
The point is that we're still missing something to do. We're late, and there's some remaining work to do, at least on the technical infrastructure. So in fact, the original approach is not that one. While this revised approach is the original budget over the cost index, and it makes sense, in the original approach, we should be considering the budgeted cost of what we have done so far, plus the budget of the remaining work. So it's going to be original. Look at what happens. What we have spent so far, and no problem with this. But to compute the remaining work, it's plus the original budget minus the budgeted cost of the work performed. You get the idea? Think about it. Remaining budgeted costs. So we are thinking that we were very bad in the past so far. What's spent? It's spent. ACWP. But starting from now on, performance will get back to 100%. No losses. No poor performance. What is the work remaining? What do we need to do in the work remaining? At budget value is what we did so far in terms of budget cost of work performance. It's the earned value to complete the original budget. So, and in our figures is 1,843,000 ACWP, sorry. It's 1,759,000 plus original budget, and you told me original budget is 1,896 minus the budgeted cost of the work performed, which is 1,843.25. Got a calculator? Please use your cell phone and please tell me how much is it?
Where is your calculator?
Is it less or more than this? Is it more? It should be a little bit more original. Because we're not applying same savings in the future. 1812. A little bit more. So savings that are incurred in the past are applied to future here. Savings in the past are no longer applied to future here. So now you understand that depending on the standpoint or perspective that you would like to give to your estimates, you could provide to your client different figures. Because your client is saying, all right, so you're making, okay, you're late. I'm very worried about it. I'm a multinational company. I would have loved to have my project end of October. Now you tell me that your project will be released. How much? When are you going to deliver the project? And we could say, 2 weeks later, in order to be very risk averse and making sure that we can make on time with the revised estimate. And how much will be cost? And how much will be costing? Let's say the client of the project will cost 1,812,000. Because just in case, if we cannot make any longer more savings in the future, we still are protecting ourselves against profit losses. Although here there's a slight difference. Questions so far? Is it clear enough? No? Did you, maybe it's not an appropriate question. An appropriate question is, now is the schedule index and cost index notion clearer than during the capstone planning phase? Now you know what SPI and CPI means. So if your workers have a lower than 1 SPI, it means task will take longer time because we expect that real actual performance is lower than, right? And similarly, the cost index. Now look at my solutions here. I'm sorry for it's very small, and maybe guys there far away you won't understand, but if you can come closer, there are some empty seats. If you add the time or Excel spreadsheet, don't you worry, I will post on the course website so that you can also learn from detailed figures. I've taken the technical infrastructure only. This is just copying and pasting the monthly status. So let me go to Excel file. You are going to see better. Okay, so that is the software customization. That is the, for the software, the rolling status. I've calculated for the schedule variance and the schedule performance index, as well as the cost variance and the cost performance index. And what I have realized is that this task is very, very good since the beginning of the project. At the end of May, it was performing 11% faster, then 5% faster, then 9% faster, then 9% faster, then 13% faster. Eduardo, you got a question? Is this influence because, sorry? There could be some learning curves actually. There could be. Typically, data at the first period of control are unreliable. Because we need to understand that project monitoring becomes reliable as far as data become available. And the more the progress, the better the accuracy. It can be demonstrated that when the project reaches 20% complete on the physical progress, then your monitoring data are enough for you to make reliable linear estimates at completion. Reliable linear estimates at completion. When it's lower than 20% complete, estimates may be not reliable. Also, if you make estimates at completion and monitoring and control at the end of October, at the end of September, is it really useful? Maybe not, it was too late. If you had done this in May, June, July, you would have taken action much ahead of time to correct the project deviation. So usually there is a time window that project control is effective, from 20% complete to 50% complete. Whatever you do before that, you don't have data to understand whether the project is really acting good or bad. Whatever you take as a decision when the project is more than half, more than 60, half or 50% complete, it's too late. So there's an effective time window for you to steer or drive the project. It's from 20 to 60% approximately of project execution. Keep in mind as a project manager. Typically, project managers take very late decisions, so you don't care about the project until 50-60%. When everyone comes to your project and say, "Oh, we're late, it's doing very bad," and now it's too late to make the decisions. Because early decisions are not stimulated by other stakeholders involved in the project. You got to understand? You received a phone call from a client in September when it's only 1 month to complete. Not at the beginning. But as a good project manager, you should have acted much earlier to avoid that phone call coming from your client, which is too late now. And why you should have detected. If I go into the technical infrastructure, look at what happens. The technical infrastructure is actually doing very bad. But I could have realized that it was very bad, not in September, which is 94%. I should have realized 93% since the beginning. And that was the time when the decision should have been made about, well, let's put more experienced technical infrastructure guy, because they are running too slow. I need to recover the lie at that time. And at that time, the measure, the control measure, would have been effective and very cheap and inexpensive. And you know what helps us to understand whether an activity is going very bad? Is what is called the control ratio. The control ratio is the multiplication of the schedule index times the cost index. Control ratio, CR, control ratio. Control ratio is multiplies cost index times schedule index, so it provides for a second order effect. Time and money are closely related. Americans say that time is money, money is time. And in project management, you can see that. And you can always convert time into money and vice versa. So the cost index times schedule index is an indicator of, is an integrated KPI that tells you whether the combined time, cost, performance is going good or bad. When it goes very low, below 0.8, it's a warning signal. When it goes lower than 0.85 or 0.8, It's a warning signal that you really need to take care about it and you need to take actions. There was here. So there's a graph which is usually displayed in the literature, which tells you that when the control ratio, schedule index times cost index, is it within plus minus, especially minus 10%, so you're in the 0.9, 0.85, you can discard, it's a negligible problem. But when it goes lower than 0.8, then at that time, be careful. Warning. In a large company that runs multiple projects in a portfolio, there are information systems that provide for red lights. And there's a red flag on that task that tells you, whoa, okay, Ismail, the project manager, you have a red flag. So all management attention goes to you, not in October, in September or October, but in July. And you can start by taking actions so that the project will be delivered on time. Cost index times schedule index. So far so good? It looks like you're dead. Can you resist a little bit longer? Yes? 20 more minutes? Can you make it? I shouldn't have. Okay, so a little bit, we go a little bit further into that because it's not final. That was the basic notion of the earned value management. But there was a good question coming from one of the classmates here that was asking, but how do you measure work schedule and work performed? BCWS. ACWP. What's the notion of WP and WS? It's not the person hours span, because the person hours is included in the BCWP. But how, if I just look at the WP or WS separately, how that is measured? Let's make an example. How would you measure the work that has been performed in a project? If I would measure the project in terms of numbers of hours spent compared to number of hours that are budgeted, is this a good meter of progress in a project? So we were expecting to spend 1,000 hours in doing the capstone project over from September to December. And we are now in November and we have spent 900 out of 1,000 hours, so we did 90% progress. Are you sure? No. So the progress is measured in terms of physical progress. So usually we make a distinction into what is the person hours consumption progress and the physical progress. The physical progress is a measure of the output that the project is delivering to internal or external client. So whenever you deliver something, you set a target progress. How would you measure physical tasks? How would you measure physical tasks? Examples. You work for a telecommunication company that has to lay down a optic fiber cable wire from Europe, from Portugal to the east coast of the United States in Atlantic Ocean, which is as far as, I guess, 3,000 kilometers, depending on where you what is the origin and destination point. How do you measure progress? Number of hours spent in laying down a cable down. Number of kilometers made. Out of 3,000 total, now we did 1,000, so we did 33%. When it comes to physical measurement, it's pretty easy to do that. Because, and this is part of all plant engineering, oil and gas, construction, real estate industries, something that you can measure, measurable. Well, you know what? In those industries, sometimes they are unable to measure because they make mistakes in measurement, like in the mechanical industries, because there are tolerances, or because the same person makes different measures. But it's just about reliability of information. But in principle, if you have a measurable quantity, you should be able to measure. You can use sensors instead of human persons to do that, for instance, but you can measure. But when it comes to measuring non-physical, intangible assets, what would you do? How do you measure non-measurable quantities? How do you do that? Output, delivered, non-delivered. The easiest way is 0, 1, like the electric switch. When it's in progress, it's 0%. When it's done, switch, bullet, 0, 1. Nothing easiest than that. First of all, we need to define when it comes to 1. So there's a definition of done that we need to agree upon. For instance, as far as Simone is concerned, for you, the 100% could be that you have finished. But for me, it's when it's accepted. So it's just let us define what 100% means. But once this has been defined, such as we need to undergo a quality check, for instance. So when it's quality checked, it goes 100%. Or when there's inspector that approves, there should be a signal or a sign that done is done. But when we have defined the definition of done, then we can measure 0, 1, 0, 1 easily. There is a drawback in the 0, 1. Assume that your activity takes 3 months. And now we're at mid-November, and you are still 0% progress in the capstone project, which is not the case because you have done 50% of your work. Because you have delivered the first milestone progress. So we can establish some milestones so that each milestone corresponds to a specific person progress in the outcome. So now you understand that a physical progress done could imply more or less work hours spent. So you have budgeted 1,000 hours to perform 100%, and it could happen that 20% more hours, 1,200 are needed for the 100% done. Milestone, targets, examples in real companies. Typically, engineering is an intangible asset activity. In an engineering company, all documentations, all engineering tasks do have a deliverable. Each engineering design task should have at least one document that is delivered to client, or a calculations, or the outcome of a software tool that helps you in calculating something, right? Output of engineering activities. The mechanical engineers in this class, they know what's a deliverable out of a mechanical engineering activity. You do a drawing, or a report, or calculations reports. When it comes to documents that go to approval by client, you can establish that sometimes it takes months of time period to deliver to client a huge complex document. So you can establish that when the document is started, it goes 20%. Then when it's first released to client, it goes 60%. This is Saipem. Saipem is a large engineering contracting industry, part of the E&I group of companies, and Saipem designs and builds large oil and gas plants all around the world. They use this conventional way of measuring progress in engineering. When it comes that the document is released to client the first time, it's 60% complete. Then the client returns it with, I'll say, you have an approval by client. Doesn't your client approve something in your capstone project? I don't remember. Are we supposed to deliver our engineering documents to client for approval? Maybe not, right? So it's not our case. But sometimes documents are returned with comments. progress 70%. And we did nothing, right? From 60% to 70%. Typically, we have done nothing but maybe some meetings. We've spent little money to get, and then we are returned comments by client who says, no, everything to be redesigned. So we redesign, and we release a second issue, it goes 90%. If the document says returned approved, then it goes 90. But if documents returns disapproved with comments, we go back. From 70%, we go from 80%, we go back to 70. And the ad count goes on. And we spend more and more actual cost, and the work performed goes back. And we incur greater and greater cost. There's a net cost escalation, right? All right, so you need to define conventional measures. But once conventional measures are done, then one can use earned value management to compute the cost and schedule performance and take control actions on the project. Here is an example. We are in the construction industry, so everything is physically measurable. The example is a project to build. Well, the project should be much greater. It's the project of building a large warehouse for a distribution company. The name of that distribution company is Alibaba. It's the competitor. It's the Western competitor of Alibaba. Huge project, huge construction project, building a new distribution warehouse close to an airport in Italy. And the initial portion of construction is building. You know how a warehouse is made? An industrial building? Have you ever? Some of the engineering management students, they have taken industrial plans at the basic level, so they maybe remember about how an industrial building is made. It's basically a flat, one-level, large industrial building which is prefabricated with columns and a roofing, right, on top, and some enclosures around. Very simple. Have you ever visited an industrial building? For sure. Right. So here is just the initial portion of the construction project, which is about building, creating the foundations and the columns. It's very similar to your bridge. That's the WBS and cost breakdown structure of the project. It's a project composed of this, it's the structures composed of footings and columns. Footings are prefabricated as well as columns are prefabricated. This example is given in the textbook, so you will find also there in details. While the previous one is not, but I will post course materials as well. So here, the cost breakdown structure specifies that we have to build 66 units of footings, so it's a huge, large one. And on top, we need to build a 220 linear meters of columns, which is not one column that is as high as the Mole Antonelliana or Tour Eiffel, but it's just so many, it's probably 76 columns as high as 3 meters each, which is one story building. Make sense?
Can you tell me the time?
So far so good? I should have placed for a picture. Would you like to have a picture of an industrial building or a warehouse? Yeah. I don't need. Okay. Budgeted cost. This is the budgeted cost of the work schedule for the full project. This is called the budgeted completion, the BAC, which is in total 1.1 million. Why it's 1.1 million? It's because each of the components should be procured, shipped, and installed. Procured, shipped, and installed. It's like in all manufacturing construction processes or estimate processes. Estimated cost for each of the units are $1,400 each for procuring the footings, Then there's $200 for transport to ship them to construction site, and $350 each to be installed. It's likely those activities are executed by a subcontractor that is executing the work on our behalf, and we just pay those unit costs. Right? Good. That is the original budget with cost breakdown. And here I've just taken some little time in calculating the weight amount, the budget cost weight on the total budget. This is approximately, I have just rounded up to digits. So I've rounded up to integer, it's 13%. 148,000 is approximately 13% of 1.1 million. While 106,000 is approximately 72% of 148,000. Good? Right. Just to let you know, this project was supposed to take 18 months in duration. So, 18 months in duration, 1.1 million budget. And now we have $700,000 in cost incurred when we are 10 months into project execution. So 10 months out of 18, it's our current date. The actual time is 10 months, 700,000. You are not taking pictures. Why don't you use cell phones now? You should be taking some pictures if you want. Now we just need to keep in mind, budget 1.1 million, 18 months. Actual cost incurred, 700,000. Why? It's because some tasks have been completed. Here for the footings, we have finished all the footings, 79. But columns are still in progress. We have only completed 108 out of the 220 in total. Alright? And the actual costs that have been incurred per unit are, for example, 1,500 in the footings. How comes it? Is it more or less expensive, one single unit of column? More expensive, $100 more. Why? It was 1,400 each. It was 1,400 each. It was 1,400 each, and now it comes to 1,500 each. Whoa! If I were the boss, I would say, why are you spending $100 each more? It's because during the budget phase, we were so stupid that we didn't think about signing a contract to place the price firm and fixed. We just made estimates, and now it's time to pay for our supplier, and supplier say, oh, but my price is 1,500 and not 1,400 because it's very expensive now. It's 10 months after the budget. The raw materials cost have increased due to inflation, whatever. You didn't force me to write a contract at that time. Now it's time to make the contract. It's 1,500. Bingo, right? I'm earning more money, and as a client, as a contractor, I'm spending more money. At the end of the day, we're spending 700,000. How much is the progress? How much is the WP so far? We have spent 700,000 more. Oh, no, not more. We have spent 700,000. We should have spent 1.1 million. How much is the progress? How would you calculate progress? Is progress 700,000 over 1.1 million? No. That is the amount of cost to spend. That is the amount of the budget that we have spent so far, but we don't know how much we did. So we need to calculate progress. To calculate progress, we go line by line in calculating progress, and we make the weighted average. No other way. We go, it's physical measurable units, right? So we need to go measuring each task done. So look at what happens on the first line. Footings, procurement, the budget number, the quantity that was budgeted in the takeoff of the materials was 76. And now we have done 79, and just to let you know, it's finished. But 79 out of 76, what happened? Can we do more than budgeted? We have done 79 instead of 76. So we did 104%. Why? It's because Mr. Amazon wanted to have some automated storage equipment that was very heavy, so we had to place more columns, more footings and more columns at certain point. But you know what? Mr. Amazon told us to do that, but we forgot it in the design phase. We didn't consider, so we calculated that we needed 76. And it was our fault. It was a design mistake, not to consider the extra 3 that we should have placed. And now Mr. Distribution is saying, "Ah, but I'm not paying the 3 extra more. Because I told you there was the need for that wave and that huge machine to be placed at that point on the flooring. So we need more structures on that side. So it's your problem. You pay the extra more and I don't, and you make it the same time. So there's a change order that is not activated by clients. So there's a change order from our side and we need to pay for it. So we need to include that extra work into the contract. Just to let you know, if the 3 extra units were requested by client in a later stage, we should have placed a change request and say, "No problem, I can do it, the 3 extra more for you, but please pay them apart. Because it's not part of my progress. And please also provide me for some extra time, a few more days, for me to install them because I need longer time." But now it's my mistake as a contractor, it's not my client's mistake. So I need to absorb the extra quantities and the extra time and efforts into my original budget, which is the contingency, right? But if I have not placed enough contingency, it's my problem. And now you understand your capstone project and why you need a contingency on top, because it's risk capital. Right, so if we measure progress now, it's 79. Did you get how I computed a full physical project progress? You need explanations? It's the weighted summation. So just to let you understand, because I just see that someone wants me to clarify. 79 divided 76 is 103.95%. I multiplied this times 72 times 13 plus this times this times this plus this times this times this, then I go to weighted average in full, 56. Wow, so we're 56.5%. Let's recall. A project which has budgeted duration as long as 18 months and 1.1 million cost. Now, 10 months into execution is experiencing actual value incurred of $700,000 and the physical progress worth approximately 56.5% progress. In 2 minutes, how about current performance? Cost and schedule performance. Are we performing well or not in cost and schedule? Can you please tell me? I'll give you 2 minutes. And then we go. If you do right. Otherwise we'll remain here until 4 p.m. I'll free to go. Alright. By the way, I will be posting in it. Did you like the video lectures online that were posted? Do you think they're useful? So I will post an additional video lecture on this stuff. And on the risk management.
Did you watch them?
I watched the first.
But don't forget to read all textbooks.
Then why we are
And
recording
the
this?
big book, this is very well explained.
Because this is way more detailed.
So, how much?
Video lectures.
Are we late? Are we in a hurry? Or are we lagging behind schedule? Are we doing faster? Are we spending more? Are we spending less?
They're super?
Compressed.
Oh, okay.
There's something you're missing. There's one missing information. Why don't you ask there's a missing point? What do you need to know? There's something you're missing. Does the word scheduled, you know that there's a missing information here? Which is about the word scheduled. Because here you have the actual cost of work performed. The WP, the BAC, but you're missing the WS. So just to let you know, the original schedule was to finish 60% now, after 10 months. With this extra information now, you can understand performance. So let me add, I will add you that the actual after 10 months, WS 60%. So, come on, late or early, cost overrun or cost savings. 60% is the work scheduled at, into 10 months into execution. But in fact, we did only 56.48, so we're late, right? Because the difference between WS and WP is late. We're late by around 3.5 points. Late. 3.5 percentage point late. And what about cost? 20 more or less. Well, it looks like if everything is linear, we spend 63% of budgeted cost to do only 56. So it looks we're also spending more. Can you please calculate for the cost index and schedule index? Cost index is, and schedule index is. Final calculations. To me, I'd rather say that cost index and schedule index allow me to avoid writing performance.
What?
Cost index, which is the budgeted cost of the work that has been performed over the actual cost of work performed, and the schedule index is the earned value over the budget value. Now, the actual cost of work performed is 700,000. Was given. How about the BCWP? BCWP is as much as, how much is WP? WP is 56.48%. And how about BC, the budgeted cost? How much? 1.1 million. Very good. Which equals 1.1 million times 56%, I guess it's 61 over 700. Is it greater or less than 1? Less than 1. And it's equals to 0.88. Thank you. 88. So we're overrunning 12%. We're overrunning cost by 12%. 12% greater cost than budget. Very bad. And what about schedule? BCWP has been earned at 621. BCWS was 60% of 1.1 million. Because it was given. So it's 621 over 660, which equals 0.9495. I don't care. 96, I don't know. 9? 0.9? 4. Thank you. So in a graph, schedule index versus cost index. We are in a position that cost index is 0.8 and we are here. And you get 5. And you're very happy about it because it's 20 to 4. You cannot do any more. So you just would like, you're afraid of it and you would like to get. Any